Okay, thanks, man. All right, so I'd like to call this meeting to order. Tonight is November 16th, 2022. This is the Operations, Budget, and Fiscal Affairs Committee meeting. My name is Dr. Kenneth Harris. I'm the chair of this committee, along with Vice Chair, Board Member LaSalle Frazier. Thank you for being with us here tonight. Ms. Barton, would you please call the roll?
Yes. Dr. Kenneth Harris.
Here.
Mrs. LaSalle Frazier.
Here.
Dr. Juanita Miller. Dr. Board Member David Murray.
I appreciate that. Here.
All right, thank you. We have quorum, and also good evening to administrative staff and board office as well. Okay, so we've got roll. Moving on to item 1.3, I need to do an adoption of the November 16th, 2022 meeting agenda. May I have a motion to adopt the November 16th, 2022 meeting agenda?
Motion to adopt.
Great, I'll second. All in favor?
Aye.
All right, so moved. Motion passes. The agenda has been adopted. Moving on to section 1.4, the approval of the October 19th, 2022 meeting minutes. May I have a motion to approve the October 19th, 2022 meeting minutes that are on board docs?
So moved.
Very good, I'll second. All in favor?
Aye.
All right, so moved. The minutes have been approved for October 19th, 2022. Again, those can be found on board docs. Tonight, we do not have any public comment speakers, but again, I'd like to take this moment to invite the public to register for public comment. I'm sure that we will start to get more folks signing up as we move deeper and deeper into our budget cycle. And we're looking forward to hearing more from our constituents as well as our community. Okay, so moving into section 3.1. Oh, I would be remiss if I didn't take a moment to stop. I'd like to also say good evening to board member Mickens Murray for joining us today as an observer for this meeting tonight. So thank you for being with us. Moving on to section 3.1. At our prior full board meeting, as well as the OBAFA meeting, members of the Board of Education submitted their budget priorities, something that we do each year. But this year, we're doing it for fiscal year 2024. The OBAFA committee, as well as other members, reviewed these priorities and we consolidated into one singular list that can be found on board docs. These priorities were then forwarded to our CEO, Dr. Martha Golson, as well as our CFO, Mr. Michael Hersman. So we're looking forward to hopefully incorporating some of those into our budget, as well as going through our newly amended amendment cycle, and looking forward to collaborating more on that budget. And those can be added to, those can be, yeah, you're off mute, by the way, mate.
I'm sorry.
No, you're fine. No, you're fine. And yeah, so you can view those on board docs under section 3.1 of the meeting tonight. All right, so moving right along to 3.2, it looks like tonight we've got one star of the show. I'm going to pass it over to you, Dr. Mark Fawcett, and you can pass it off to staff as you like.
Okay, thank you, Committee Chair Harris. At this particular point, we'd like to take this opportunity for our operations moment tonight to give you an update on our phase 1 P3 and our upcoming phase 2 P3. And with us, we have the Director of the Office of Alternative Infrastructure Planning and Development Department, Mr. Jason Washington, along with Mr. Ronald Kaufman, who is the supervisor of the OAIPD office. Director Washington.
Thank you so much, Dr. Fawcett. Good evening, everyone. It's a pleasure to be here to provide an update on where we are with phase 1 and the beginning of phase 2. There was a presentation that I sent around that's coming up now that we will go through and look forward to addressing any questions either during the presentation or after. We can go down to slide 3. I think we can jump right in. The big picture here All schools will be ready for occupancy during next school year. The July 15th, 2023, which is the original delivery date for all 6 schools, were there not identified relief events. And I will talk about that in a minute as it relates to Walker Mill and Colin Powell. We will have Kenmore, Drew Freeman, Hyattsville, and Sonia Sotomayor Middle School ready for occupancy by July 15th, 2023. Occupancy means we have all permits, everything is ready to go, and we have access to the building. It's not that the building is complete, it is that we are fully able to operate the building as of July 15th. August 4th, Walker Mill will be delivered, and November 8th, Colin Powell will be ready for occupancy. The delay for Walker Mill and Colin Powell were due to site conditions that related to unsuitable soils that require remediation, and significant remediation for Colin Powell, and a minor remediation at Walker Mill. But all of the schools will be ready for occupancy next school year, and we are moving as quickly as possible to ensure that the schools will be ready and will meet this schedule. We have not been made aware as of today of any potential impacts via schedules, supply chain, anything that would derail the delivery of these schools on these dates presented here. And so we are fully working under the assumption that these schools will be delivered as of the dates listed here. A few other updates. All of the schools have completed 100% construction documents at this point. We are fully engaged with construction, and we are finalizing all of the final design tweaks. And actually, one of the final ones is the renaming package for Sonia Sotomayor Middle School at Adelphi, and a little few cleanup items in that vein, but the schools are completely designed, and construction, as you will see in the forthcoming pages, is well underway. We have really taken a focus on meeting with community organizations, members, associations, PTAs, PTOs across the county, and to date have presented to over 60 community meetings, as well as releasing a monthly newsletter, and as of today, 6 quarterly reports. There's another one that will be released in December, providing additional information on the status of phase 1, as well as construction and design updates. As has been identified before, as part of this delivery model, we were able to identify an additional $1 million in finance savings upfront to provide for unrestricted funds to be used for scholarships for Prince George's County students through the Excellence in Education Foundation. And something that we are very excited about, and was a requirement in the project agreement for phase 1, was significant MBE participation, not just participation by numbers, but participations in dollars spent. And so, as you can see, there was a 30% requirement for MBE participation in procurement dollars. We are currently with roughly 8 to 9 months to go at over 97% of hitting that goal. And of that 30%, 20% of that needed to be CBB businesses. And we are currently at roughly $78 million in awarded contracts to county-based businesses. We expect that number to continue to grow as we finalize the buyout for a lot of internal activities, painting, carpeting, and the like as we finish up the job. One thing to note as it relates to phase one in the contract is that this number resets at 0 when the schools are delivered, and the developer is required to meet 30% MBE participation for the duration of the contract and all dollars spent, or they face a penalty of up to the delta that they miss the requirement amount for. So in this case, the requirement was $128.5 million. If they do not procure any more business or any further work from MBEs, they would owe Prince George's County Public Schools $3.3 million. And that's how it works, and it resets at the services period. And then finally, as part of, we believe, our mandate as a government entity is to do what we can to expand procurement opportunities and the capacity base of local businesses. And so we have established a mentor protege program, which is in the 3rd cycle now. Over 30 minority-owned firms have participated to date. And that program is really set up for businesses to learn how to bid, how to put together budgets, how to really focus on back office and building the capacity, not just to compete on this deal, but to get work throughout the county and specifically with PGCPS. And now as we turn, I think it's easier to provide some pictures here. Kenmore, what you're looking at is the left picture is the development and the beginning of the gang bathrooms that are being developed. Also, we have a, hold on, okay, dear, hold on, I'll be right there. Yes, you can, I'm on, yes. So yes, my apologies. My boss is running my house at the moment. So so here in the middle, as you can see, are the really the beginnings of the corridors. I think one thing that we can highlight is just how wide and open the corridors are, that we believe will provide ample space and opportunities for students and the organic growth of the school, a natural transition between classes, etc. The picture to the left, to the right, is our IDF room. As you can see, there's a lot of technology going into the school. And so that is all wiring and a lot of internet capability that will be pushed through the school. All schools, just so everyone is aware, will be Wi-Fi enabled across the full campus. And so that is really ensuring that students on the one-to-one devices are able to access their work and utilize their systems and their computers anywhere on the campus. Next slide. This is the development happening at Sonia Sotomayor. The picture on the left is the back of the parking lot. They are putting in and finished putting in a retaining wall that really sets the back parking lot for the school. In the middle, that is now showing the fully framed up school. They will be adding colored panels in months to come, but the frame and the school is fully enclosed, which will allow for the advancement of work that is demonstrated in the picture on the right, which is a classroom that is starting to come into view. Next, we have Drew Freeman. And here you can actually see the entrance of the school being put up. The awning there will set really the positioning of the school. And you can see curb and gutter going in the picture on the right, and the work advancing on the upper floors in the picture in the middle. On the next, we have with Walker Mill. And as I mentioned before, with site conditions, the picture on the right was a retaining wall that we needed to build, actually for what is known as slope stability, to ensure that the building's foundation is solid for its duration. And so while it's there, and so that wall is being built. It's a massive undertaking that goes up, I want to say 5 feet high in the back there. But that's to ensure that no settlement happens and that there are no foundation issues with the school. The picture on the left is really the mechanical room that is set up. And what is exciting about this, that is how the piece came. It was fabricated, and that has helped ensure that, you know, we're not waiting for supplies, that the systems are in place on time and has kept us on schedule. There's a lot of these production methods that Gilbane has utilized that has ensured that the schools continue to move forward. In the middle picture is the hallway, but it also, to the left of that picture, are little collaboration spaces that will be on each floor that will allow for small group gatherings, for teacher pullouts, and we'll have the opportunity for collaboration for students, and we'll have furniture in those for students to, with different learning modalities and abilities, to find various places within the school to excel. Next slide is Hyattsville, and you can literally see the picture on the left is the parking lot from the school. They have begun to lay out the parking lot. To your left is the bus parking, and to the right in the center of the picture will be staff and visitor parking. And the flip picture in the middle is really the view from the street of the new school. And in the picture on the right is the gymnasium as they start to finish up framing there and preparing to close it in. And now with Colin Powell, which is the biggest school, and that we are building as it relates to the K-8. The back tower, they are still framing that up and trying to get that closed as quickly as possible. And you can see the ductwork that is going in through the hallways and the HVAC system that's in place there. And then the curb and gutter that's being utilized and built by Gilbane. One thing with Colin Powell that we've seen and that we are really trying to address is the runoff that is happening at the school due to the land conditions. And so by accelerating the base pavement and the curb and gutter, we started to address some of the significant runoff that was seen early on, failures, quite frankly, of the erosion and sediment control that was in place that led to Gilbane having to step up their practices as well as to move around their proposed schedule, so to speak, to ensure that we are being a good neighbor and addressing some of the significant runoff that we were seeing after significant storms. And so that is where we are with the schools at this point. Hopefully you can see that these schools are well on their way to being delivered on time. And then final slide that I have is really to update everyone on where we are with phase 2. As you all remember, the board approved the 6 schools that were identified and recommended by the task force at the September 22nd board meeting. And that allowed us to move forward with the issuance of RFQ that was issued on October 31st. We are expecting proposals back from development teams and developers by December 15th. We will then move to down select to 3 potential developers at the end of January. And that will begin the RFP process that we expect to have RFP final submissions the end of June, and to select a preferred developer by the end of August, early September. The big difference, and just to kind of lay out the difference between phase 1. Phase 1, we had committed financing and a committed design at selection, which really was favorable for us at the time, and it locked in our rates and payments. However, we have found that because of changes in education specifications from PGCPS, as well as changes at the state, that we actually needed more collaboration with the designer through that process. And it also helps us have a tighter hold in helping to ensure affordability. And so this process that we're going to undertake this time is a pseudo progressive, where we will select someone, and then through early March, we'll work with them through the design to come up with and to lock in a GMP that we will then use to price and to finance and to close the transaction. And all of this is driven by, we have state matching funds of $25 million a year for 30 years, approximately $750 million. We must enter into a definitive agreement and reach financial close by July 1st, 2024, or we forfeit the state contribution. And so that's what's driving our calendar, and that's what's driving our procurement schedule. A couple of other pieces to just note. The contract is subject to both the Board of Education approval and the IAC approval. And so that is the requirement that is different from phase 1 as well, having state approval of the contract. And then one of the big pieces that we are working on through now, and you will see there, is the memorandum of understanding. It is a 4-party agreement, which is different than phase 1 when it was just us in the county. And the MOU really will lay out the roles and responsibilities of each of the parties, respective of this agreement. However, what is very clear, and everyone is well aware, is that this is a PGCPS procurement. This is not the state. This is not the county. This is literally their support of us and of this model. But it is not in any way taking away from our ability to run the proposal and the proposal process as we see fit. And so that is an overview of where we are with phase 1, what's to come with phase 2, and I'm now open to any questions.
Mr. Chair, I had my hand up.
Very good. Let me first say thank you, Mr. Washington, for the presentation. Ms. Barton, you can put the slides back up. I think board members might call to slides specifically with their questions. Before we jump into questions, I do want to say hello to board member Sonia Williams, who's also joined us today as a guest board member, and good evening to Dr. Juanita Miller as well, who has the first question. So the floor is yours.
Thank you, Dr. Harris. Thank you, Mr. Washington. That presentation was very specific and detailed. My question is that recently a council member proposed to add another school to phase 2. And how does that addition affect the progress that you just outlined for us? Or can that happen, or would that school have to go into phase 3? Or are you aware of that?
Yeah. I am aware of recommendations. The process would have, as it's set up through the statute, the final approval, so to speak, and selection of sites is actually with the IAC, and they were part of the task force that helped with the development of identifying the 6 schools. So we would have to see what that process would look like. However, the other big piece of this, and we can, is affordability. Our affordability model set at roughly up to $50 million a year for availability payment, yielded 6 schools. So if there was a conversation about any additional schools or changes, that would have to also factor into affordability, as well as whether or not the IAC and the board, because I think the board would have to vote to make changes, et cetera, believed that this was the best package for the phase 2. I can say that the IAC was very pleased. Our proposed 6 schools for phase 2 actually lowers the county's FCI score and improves our ability to manage assets. And they commended us on that process and the schools and how we approached it. But it also, as I mentioned, finally, the timing on this, we have a very tight timeline. And so we already have a procurement that's out, and we will soon be providing educational specifications tied to those specific schools to the developers. And so there are a lot of things that I, from a practical standpoint, would complicate matters, but what happens in terms of schools being added and all of that, that's for other determinations. But we feel very comfortable with the 6 that have been selected and the ability for us to make those affordable. So,
my concern is that what you have presented to us in terms of where we need to go and the timelines, and you mentioned that in order to get the state matching funds, we had to have these projects in operation, I should say, by 2024. Otherwise, if we have any setbacks in terms of adding additional schools at this time, that could, I guess I should put it in the form of a question, could that set our timeline off?
Yes, because I just laid out, we would have to reconvene the task force to reassess schools first, and then the board would have to get involved because the board has approved this package of schools. And so our job as the task force is to recommend and the board to approve that recommendation. And so we would then have to develop new educational specifications if a change was to happen. So just thinking about what the process took to get to this point, it took us roughly 6 months to come to the recommendation of these 6 schools. And so changing that mix would definitely have an impact on schedule.
Thank you. I just wanted to go on record what the impact could be. Thank you.
That's you through, Dr. Miller?
Yes, I said thank you.
Okay, yep. Okay, so Mr. Wash, I've got 2 questions for you. I don't see anyone else's hand up. Dr. Miller, you can put your hand down.
I'm trying to now.
No problem. Take your time. Just want to make sure I don't call you again unless you have another question. So Mr. Washington, you mentioned actually on this slide the need to maintain the 30% for the MBE.
Yes, sir.
I guess my question would be who, if that is to be breached, who enforces it and then who collects the fees? I know you said it's paid to PDCPS.
We would enforce it. So they
Okay.
have to, so we have an MBE certifying firm
Okay.
that validates payroll and everything every month. And so we would get a final report at occupancy. So they have until July 15, 2023. At which point, if they have failed to meet that 30% per contract, they are required to pay that penalty to us. And that's the enforceability mechanism. We would have the certified final MBE numbers with us, and it would be on PGCPS to enforce that 30%. And to carry that further for the services period, we will hire and are hiring a project manager 3 that will manage Honeywell. And so every month, Honeywell would be responsible for providing a report. And every third month, should there be any deficiencies, any deductions, so to speak, from their performance, they must meet 48 KPIs per month, per school, or there's a deduction. And so that PM would take both the MBE spend as well as the potential deductions and provide a report to the steering committee on their progress towards the 30% and their adherence to the contract for the next 30 years.
Okay. And excuse my ignorance on it, but the PM3 would be solely responsible for the vendor Honeywell?
Yes. So Honeywell is the maintenance provider. So
Right.
they have in the contract their requirements, and so they would go and inspect the schools weekly, each of the schools, to ensure that all of the maintenance requirements that we have agreed to and will agree to in terms of maintaining the facilities are in place. So for instance, in the contract, every wall in the school that is not covered by a substance, so acrovan or something like that, must be painted every 2 years. So if there's a failure to do so, that individual will be responsible for ensuring compliance with the contract.
Got it. And that's a current hire that you're looking to make. You haven't made the hire yet.
Yes, we literally just released the job today. So
Okay.
if y'all know of anybody, please direct them to the to the site. So
Got it. Okay, so my next question is, you mentioned newsletters and quarterly reports. Is there, for the public that's watching this at a later date, are there links where they can join them on the PGCPS website if they're not getting the newsletter?
yes, both on the PGCPS website under the Blueprint schools link, there's a link to a program. We have a program website as well, PGCPS blueprintschools.com. Every presentation that we've ever done, every document and presentation that's been like in paper form in both, I believe, Spanish and English and French in some cases, all of that is kept on that website, and there are sub pages per school. So if someone has questions around Walker Mill and they also is a Q&A tab where they can leave us questions, and I try to update our answers and update any questions monthly at that site. And it can all be directed from the PGCPS website. And also, if anybody has any questions around the contract, what the contract consists of, et cetera, the full contract is on PGCPS website as well. And so all of that information is available. And if somebody is still looking for something, they can reach out directly to us as well.
Okay, thank you for that. And the last question, this is more so for my curiosity, and if you don't have the answer now, that's perfectly okay. We can talk offline. You mentioned in the new building packages that we have, you mentioned that Wi-Fi is available across the full campus or across the whole school. As I'm thinking like through security measures. Do you know if we're utilizing extenders or if we're utilizing a mesh network?
I believe it's the mesh network is
Okay.
my understanding. But
Okay.
I would defer to the IT department, but
Yeah.
I believe that's the case, but
It's okay. I'm not gonna
yeah.
hold you to it. It was just out of curiosity. I'm not gonna hold you to that. But like I said, we can talk
And the
offline.
only reason I know anything, the only reason I know anything about that is because I'm trying to figure out what to put in my house because my extender does not work in my basement and through walls and whatnot. So I've been told
Yeah.
that the mesh system is
Yeah.
supposed to be better. So, but
Yeah.
anyway.
Yeah, it is better. I think it's better, but that's another conversation for another day. Okay,
Yeah.
that concludes my questions. Colleagues, do we have any other questions from our visiting board members or from our committee members? Just looking down, make sure I don't see any hands. Wait, I saw a hand. Miss Williams or Board Member Williams, please. The floor is yours.
Thank you. I always like to take the opportunity to say congratulations to the team on this effort because it's a big undertaking. And for us to be opening these schools next year is just going to be amazing for our students to have heard about the process and then be able to walk into the schools. And so just another congratulations. I will be ecstatic when I could walk through the doors of each of those 6 new schools. And then to begin to see the start of the next 6 to be opened. And please share with me, I may have missed that part of the presentation, when the next 6 will be open. And how are we doing? This is my question. How are we doing currently under the first phase, the first group of schools with our MBE, if you have that information available?
So it's actually for the latter question, the next to the last bullet. I pull it out there where we are to date on the awarded amount. And for
Oh, wow.
the for the tentative right now, if we close as we anticipate in April 2024 with this transaction, we are anticipating being ready to ground break roughly September of 2024. We would hope that the elementary schools will be ready by 2026, and the K-8 schools will be ready no later than the following summer. But as we did with phase 1, we may look at assessment points and evaluation points based upon a developer's ability, they believe, to potentially accelerate the schedule. But knowing what we know now, it is a heavy lift to get a K-8 done in 2 years. And if not for some of the site conditions at Southern, actually Gilbane would have done it. And so I think, but I also want to make sure that we are, not setting ourselves up for unsustainable delivery times. So right now we are looking at school year 26, 27 for the elementaries and school year 27, 28 for the K-8s.
Yeah, and that is just it is an incredible feat to potentially open 12 new schools using this model in 1 decade. It's an incredible feat. And these are unforeseen conditions due to sites, especially in the southern part of the county. I think that is a good strategy to sort of give a little bit more time. Are we looking at another 2,500 students for the K-8?
The K-8 capacities will be 2,000. So just
2,000.
to kind of give everybody some color, give somebody some color on the schools. All of the schools will be built with, I believe, a minimum of 3 pre-K classrooms, and so they actually will be pre-K through 8th at the K through 8s and pre-K through 5th at the elementary schools. And so that will be part of the program. Each of the elementary schools, save for Hyattsville, will be roughly around 825 to 850 student capacity. And the Hyattsville, I believe, will be somewhere around 600 to 650, just based upon the school location. And so and one of the things, because of those unforeseen site conditions that we're dealing with now, we have actually, and I thank the board for approving the technical advisor, Kathy Dixon and Associates and KDA. So we've actually went out and done more environmental studies, more land studies, and captured more of that risk up front. And also we are providing test fits to the developers, whoever they are, and we're making it clear that should you move outside of this box, you're responsible for everything anywhere else. And so we are going to do, we believe, a better job of really corralling those risks that are our responsibility, whether we did a P3 or not, but to just have a better hold over that, because that's something, it's an unknown land condition. None of us know. And some of the conditions that we've run into in this process have been fun and exciting, and I never want to repeat again. So, you know, we will endeavor not to limit that exposure for the school system going forward.
Right. And I appreciate that forward thinking to get out there and get that information in advance to try to be prepared for as much unforeseen as we can building on that land. And my last comment, which is kind of a core information, those new board members, how many schools will these new 6 in the phase 2 take offline? Because the goal of this is to take off and replacing them with new. So how many schools will we be replacing, therefore reducing the maintenance dollar we spend on those? How many schools are there?
Right now, these 6 will impact 12 schools, either through consolidation, through boundary adjustments, or just through rebuild, a straight replacement school. And so we actually think we may be able to actually impact a 13th school, but that would really depend on boundaries, specifically with James Duckworth. James Duckworth will go from a regional program to a elementary school, a larger school, to take pressure off of surrounding schools that are significantly over capacity. And so that is how, you know, we really want to use this to start right sizing, as Sean likes to say, for the CIP, right sizing the asset management for the school system in the out years.
Right, great, thank you so much. This complex 3-dimensional chess played upside down that you're managing. And again, I appreciate your work. Thank you.
Very good. Thank you for your questions. All right, colleagues, last call for any additional questions for Mr. Washington. We got to let him go. His boss might come back in there.
Oh, oh no, she's good now. So she...
All right, so seeing no other questions, I'm gonna let you off the hook, Mr. Washington. Thank you so much again for this presentation, answering the questions. And we're looking forward to updates in the future, but it looks like you're on track, so I appreciate you.
All right. Thanks, everybody. And should there be any additional questions or anything, please feel free to let us know.
Thank you, will do. All right, colleagues, moving right along here. Short meeting tonight. So section 4.1, we do not have any follow-up items from our previous call. And I'll take this time now to remind the public that our next OBOF meeting is December 14th at 5 p.m. We will potentially have some new faces in these committee meetings next time we convene. So we're excited to see them in our meetings upcoming. So any closing remarks from any of my committee members before I close it out tonight? Again, thank you to Mr. Washington and Dr. Fawcett and the whole team for everything you did in putting all this together. And we'll be sure to follow with any other questions that we have. But I don't see any other hands up, so I will entertain a motion to adjourn if it pleases this committee. Or
So
we can
moved.
stay here. There we go. I'll second it. All in favor?
Aye.
All right. So moved. Thank you, everyone. Have a great night.
Thank you, everybody.
Good night.
Dr. Harris, can you remain?